Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Great to have you along today, Friday, August the 15th, 4:14 a.m. with the big blue mug of coffee. I hope you're having a great day today. And as you can see, I am home. I am no longer in the hospital. I got out on Wednesday evening. I'll give a full update on my health if you're interested at the end of this video. But I'm currently kind of living on my ground floor. I'm shooting this in my dining area. I'm sleeping on a hospital bed in my living room. Here's a picture because I can't go up and down stairs right now. I certainly couldn't get in and out of my bed upstairs without extraordinary pain. And I'm currently under the influence of drugs, although it's not affecting my thinking. Let me just tell you that, but it's keeping me from being in excruciating pain right now. Before I move to today's topic, I'd like to thank everybody that's reached out over the last several days to wish me well. I'd like to thank the people at the Alberta Prosperity Project who reached out to me a few days back to offer assistance. I appreciate that very much. I feel blessed that I'm part of an independence movement that would do that for me. So thanks to everybody for that. Now, keep in mind, I'm shooting this on my Mac. I haven't got my regular screens around me. I've got one screen right now, and I'm kind of doing guerrilla recording. But I did a video from the hospital the other day talking about the two Canadas. The reason I did that video was that story on hiking. Pardon me if I move around a little bit. That story on hiking out of the East Coast on how people are just so willing to accept stuff like that, where people like myself, probably people like you, would never accept that. And I've been watching in the news as much as I can over the last few days some of the crazy stories that have been popping up in Canada. And it came to mind how I could talk about these things when I watched a video from Corey Morgan last night. Now, he's talking about Alberta Independence and the question for Alberta Independence at the beginning of this video that he did yesterday. But I think there's something to be learned here from Albertans, and you'll get a reason why Albertans kind of want to move on from Canada when you watch this video and when I talk about these different things that I saw in the news this week. But I think Canadians can learn about this as well, and I think they need to take a stand. So let's watch a little bit of Corey's video, and I'll come back and explain.
Hey there. Well, I see the first level of court ruled on a motion on the independence question for referendum, and threw out basically the APP's motion to just quash the judicial review of the question. And some folks are not sure where to go with this. The first thing I'll say is don't sweat it. Don't worry about it, guys. Look, they're going to pull out all the stops. The establishment is going to do everything it can to fight the independence movement, and they're going to lose. But we're in a long game, right? So now it sounds like it might be into November before this goes to review. I can't say with confidence how they're going to rule on that, whether or not the question is constitutional or not. You know what? I don't care. I really don't. We're not asking the court's permission. We're not asking Ottawa's permission. We're not asking anybody's permission except those of Albertans, and the only way to do it is through a referendum, and we're going to have one.
I'll put a link to Corey's video in the description so you can watch the whole thing. Go over there and subscribe to his channel as well. And pardon me, I'm losing my voice a little bit right now. But what has this got to do with Canada? You're talking about an Alberta-centric issue here, how the Alberta Prosperity Project has put a question forward for Albertans to determine their fate. And there are people who want to get in the way. What has this got to do with Canada? I'll get to it in just a moment. If you ask the average person who wants independence in the province of Alberta, what is the number one reason you want that? People would say money. I'll get to that in just a moment. But we don't recognize the country we live in anymore. It doesn't represent us. Alberta is different. Alberta is a distinct society. I learned that as soon as I moved here 13, 14 years ago. We don't want to accept what's going on in Canada right now because we don't recognize the country we used to live in. It's not the same anymore. You kind of get used to it after a while. You become numb to all the stupidity that goes on, much of it caused by government. Reagan said that government isn't the solution to your problems, government is the problem. So let's look at a couple of stories here, which I'll go through quickly. I won't comment on them very much. To kind of have a main theme here that most Canadians, regardless of what side they're on, would that be the left or the right politically, would agree that these stories are ridiculous and shouldn't be happening. But very little is being done about this because we've become numb. And Albertans have become numb to this and want to say goodbye. So you've got this story about Canadians' blood, Conservatives calling for an investigation into foreign corporations cashing in on Canadians' blood. The Globe and Mail, which is not a conservative newspaper, reports that Spanish drug maker Grifols is selling products made with plasma obtained from Canadian blood donations. And then we hear that Brookfield Asset Management has been aggressively trying to buy this company and that Mark Carney could benefit through Brookfield. I mean, how is it acceptable that Mark Carney could do this? It is, because people are allowing this stuff to happen. You've got this story. Why are we trading our breadbasket for a battery pack? Mark Carney has been very quiet on this issue. It's been going on for months, going back to, I think, before the election campaign. In protecting a shaky electric vehicle dream, Ottawa is putting a $43 billion canola reality at risk, sacrificing a cornerstone of our agriculture economy for a battery pack that may never deliver. And then there was this article that popped up just the other day. They've decided to put a 75.8% tariff on Canadian canola seed just as it's about to be harvested, on top of the 100% tariffs on Canadian canola oil, canola meal, and peas, and an additional 25% on lobster and pork. How is this even possible in a country like Canada? It shouldn't be. You've got stories like this. This is an actual screen grab from Small Dead Animals. Today in the vote-rich RP beheader community, federal officials spent at least $170,000 bringing Canadian ISIS women home from Syria, according to internal government documents that show expenses for ice cream, candy, and wine. They're wining and dying terrorists on your dime. How is this possible? I do not recognize this country. There's this story from Brian Lilly. This would be the Toronto Sun, the Sun chain. Carney's Liberals hiding immigration data as questions mount. Okay, here's a bit of the text from that story. Carney Liberals have been hiding immigration data from the Canadians for months. Now, after being called on it, the government says it's all in the name of openness and transparency. You know, I saw this story. I immediately thought of 1984. And God, it's brought up so much. But it's so true. Here's a quote from 1984. The party told you to reject the evidence of your ears and eyes. It was their final, most essential command. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became the truth. And this is kind of where we are right now. I mean, there's a famous guy from the 1930s and 40s that said a lie told once is still a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And that's where we are right now in this country. There was this story right here, and this is a good indication of how people can push back and make changes. And it's not happening enough in the country. There's a story regarding the Toronto International Film Festival. TIFF removes October 7th documentary film from schedule, citing implausible copyright clearance concerns from Hamas terror footage. It's absolutely absurd. And remember when I saw this story, I thought, how is this even possible in this country? You know, when it came to that hiking story, people were mocking Canada from around the world. It's so absurd, but people pushed back and you end up with this. TIFF and filmmaker Barry Average reach resolution to screen October 7th doc amid outcry, and there needs to be more outcry. But I think people are just so tired of dealing with this stuff that they turn it off. It reminds me of another quote. I saw this the other day. I thought this was interesting. If you keep people exhausted and distracted, they won't organize. If you keep them struggling and divided, they won't resist. The system isn't broken. It's working as designed. And I think that's where we are right now. And then there's these stories. I got this in an email from Free Alberta. and this is directed, I guess, towards Albertans. And this goes back to the money thing. The federal government's so-called emissions reduction plan, including its oil and gas emissions cap, will devastate Alberta's economy. We knew it all along, but thanks to a Freedom of Information request obtained by the Hub, we now have proof from the Alberta government own commission research showing just how bad it will be. And here's how bad it's going to be, folks. And this is why Albertans are pushing back and want independence. You need to understand this. Pardon me. The numbers are staggering. $941.7 billion in lost economic activity between 2030 and 2050. Over 150,000 Alberta jobs gone by 2050. $3,291 less disposable income per Alberta household by 2050. More than $196 billion wiped from provincial revenues. For perspective, the much-hated National Energy Program of the 1980s only cost Alberta $37 billion over 4 years. Ottawa's current plan will take $102 billion in just the first 4 years alone, and this is only the partial data. The complete numbers could be even worse. You see, Alberta is doing what Canada isn't doing. We are pushing back. We want something better for ourselves, and that's why we want the independence question. Canadians aren't pushing back enough. They're accepting their fate. I've said here many times before, I don't want to go back to the same place again, that Canada is mediocre. You know, I've just come through the healthcare system. And I'm very critical of the healthcare system, but I stood with somebody the other day who works in the healthcare system who criticized the healthcare system because it doesn't work quick enough. Now, I was in distress last Saturday laying on a bike path in the southern part of Alberta in Fish Creek Park. I've got a broken collarbone and a pelvis is broken in 2 places. I'm on drugs to just move around my house using a walker. But our healthcare system could be far better. If you're in distress, you'll get the care you need quickly. But I do have to say, on Saturday afternoon, all the way through Sunday, almost into Monday, I had to sit in a very busy emergency room where I got no sleep and it wasn't comfortable at all until I could actually get the care I needed to get on the road to recovery. But Canadians accept mediocrity. You accept stories like this, and these are just a few things. You don't push back enough. You vote for this. And it gets worse, and it gets worse and worse. Alberta doesn't want to do that anymore. All that money that Alberta is going to lose because of this emissions thing, and because Mark Carney and net zero, we don't want this anymore. If Alberta just left right now, we would be tens of billions of dollars, almost hundreds of billions of dollars ahead. If we stay, the province will be pilfered by the federal government. And we'll continue to complain about it. You know, people say, what do you want as a conservative? I say, I want to be left alone. Right? The 9 scariest words in the English language, Reagan again. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I just want to be left alone. I think we need less government, not more. The government that is best governs least. But I also want to be able to keep more of the money that I earn. And I think every Canadian would say that. I don't care what side of the ideological spectrum you're on. I think most people would like to keep more of the money they earn. People work into middle of June now just to pay the taxes in this country. Shouldn't Alberta feel the same way? If you're in Alberta and you're a conservative and you're off signing that petition for that blatherskite, Tom Lukasik, who's trying to get in the way of me having a choice in this province to stay or leave Canada, don't you believe that Alberta should be able to keep more of what it earns? Don't you believe Alberta should be able to walk away from a country and Albertans walk away from a country that they don't recognize anymore? I said a while back on a video here that patriotism is a hard thing to fight. And I think it is. I think people are just they've got this idea that Canada is something special. Well, it might have been. But by all those stories and more that you see every day, I don't think it's that special at all anymore. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. A little update on my medical in just a moment. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one. Now, as far as I go, I am living in my living room basically right now. I've got a long road to recovery, but I'm luckily I'm at home now where I feel more comfortable. But frankly, I've got to get up right now and get back to bed because I'm in severe pain right now in my right hip, and I'm probably not doing myself any good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.